Hey everyone, it's Cassie, and I have been getting some questions on how I watercolor flowers, so today I thought we'd take a look at one of the ways that I color flowers. I'm using an image from Gina K Designs' Always Autumn stamp set. I'm working on Strathmore Bristol Smooth cardstock, and I've already stamped my image using Ink on 3 Fade Out ink. There will be links in the description below for all of these products. I also have a palette, some clean water, some Zig Clean Color Row Brush markers, a silver black velvet number 8 round paintbrush, and a paper towel. Now we have our supplies, let's get started. To keep the color soft and delicate, we're going to be working in light layers. I'm starting with a 069 marker, and I'm working one petal at a time, and I'm going to lay a little bit of color down at the base of the petal towards the center of the flower. You don't want to put in too much ink at this point, you just want a little bit in there. Then I'm going to dampen my paintbrush and spread that ink around the entire petal, keeping the majority of the darker color at the base of the petal, but making sure that there is a base color across the entire petal. Throughout the video, I will have whatever color I'm currently using listed above in the upper right-hand corner. To maintain the definition of my petals, I'm going to skip over one petal and go to the next petal that is not touching my currently wet petal. I'm going to repeat the same process, putting a little bit of color in at the base of the petal and then spreading it around with a little bit of water. If you find you have too much water on your petal or the color is a little too dark, you can dab it with a paper towel to pick up the extra water and a little bit of the ink. I'm going to repeat the same process for each of the petals. I've been doing these first few petals in real time so you can see what I'm doing and about how long it takes me to do it, but I will speed it up so that it doesn't get boring. When you have petals that overlap, the petal underneath will have more shadow to it. This helps define the shapes when you don't have a black outline. For these petals, I'm laying down some ink along where the shadow would be, as well as the base of the petal, and then blending out with the water. You can see that this petal is darker than the petals next to it. This helps give the flower shape and dimension. However, at this point, I'm still keeping everything fairly light. If you put too much ink in at the beginning, you can easily overwhelm it with color and lose the delicate quality that we're going for. I'm going to continue working in this manner until I have all the petals done with this first layer of color. Now that we have our first layer of color on, I'm going to start adding in the shadows. I'm using a 230 marker for this, but I don't want super dark color. So I'm coloring it onto a palette, and I'll pick up the color with my damp paintbrush. And I'll apply that color to the shadow areas of the petals, so at the base of that petal, and moving up that center crease a little bit. Then I'll rinse off my brush and blend that out towards the edges. You don't necessarily want to cover everything that you've already painted, but you want to get it blended nicely. Then I'll move on to the next petal and repeat that same process. I've slowed it down to real time again so you can watch what I'm doing, but I will speed it up after I've done a couple petals. As you're working, remember that the petals that fall behind other petals will be darker, so you can add more color into those petals. Just remember to work in light layers. It's easier to go back and add in more color later than to take color away once it's there. Sometimes it helps to even let the petals dry or finish working on other petals around it to see if it needs more color to add definition or if it's okay where it is. Once I have all the petals completed, I'm going to go back in with my 069 as well as my 230 back and forth to just define the shapes. Wherever the petals blend together too much, I will add a little bit more shadow and definition to help set the petals apart. To add a little bit of warmth to our highlights, I'm going to add in some 073. I'm just very lightly brushing the marker across the tips of the petals. I'm not laying down much ink, I'm just very, very lightly adding a touch of color to the highlights. Now that our petals are done, it's time to work on our center. To do this, I'm going to start with a 066 and just add little tiny dots of color around the outside edge of our center. Also a little bit in the middle to add a little divot to our center. Then I'm going to blend that out with some clean water. Flower centers have a bumpy texture, so you don't need to be very smooth with your blending here. Then I'm going to dab it off with a paper towel. This significantly lightens the color. Then I'm going to go in with a 063 and repeat the process. I'll then go back to my 066, this time working off of my palette and adding in some little dots for texture. Keep building the color slowly so you don't oversaturate it. For more texture, I'm going to add little dots and then soften them off with some water. And that finishes up this method of painting flowers. If you want to see more methods of using these markers to paint flowers, go ahead and leave me a comment below. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future videos. If you want to find me on my blog or Instagram or anywhere else, there are links in the description below for that as well. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful day.